High in the alpine country of southern Yukon, the ridgelines feel like the top of the world, untouched, ancient, and silent. In a landscape like this, there are no trees, not for miles. So when a piece of wood appears, it's more than just an object. It's a sign. When you look around this landscape, there's no trees. So the only way for a substantial piece of wood like this to get up here is for someone to actually bring it up. So when we see wood, we automatically know it's an artifact. For decades, these frozen peaks have been giving up their secrets. As the climate warms, ancient ice is melting, revealing a lost world of hunting technology, preserved in impossible detail. But among the hundreds of artifacts, one object carried a signature so strange it unsettled the very experts who found it. A mystery that couldn't be solved by the naked eye and would require the mind of a machine to unravel. The answer it provided would not only challenge our view of the ancient world, but hint at a hidden layer of belief and ritual behind the raw act of survival itself. It all began not with a discovery, but with a smell. In the mid-1990s, biologists hiking these remote ridges noticed dark organic streaks melting out of the ice. At first, they looked like patches of dirt, but the smell gave it away. It was the unmistakable barnyard odor of caribou dung, thawing after lying frozen for thousands of years. That scent drifting through the otherwise pristine mountain air was the first clue. These ice patches were not frozen wastelands, they were time capsules. Archaeologists quickly joined the surveys, and what they uncovered defied belief. Normally, organic materials like wood, leather, or sinew rot away within decades, leaving only stone points behind. But here, the ice had acted like a perfect freezer. Alongside the dung pellets were throwing darts, sinew bindings, and even the occasional feather, tools of hunters who had stalked caribou here millennia ago. The reason for this extraordinary preservation lies in the ice itself and in the animals it attracted. These aren't glaciers, the ice patches don't move, so they don't grind artifacts to dust. In the summer, caribou would gather on these frozen surfaces to escape biting insects and cool down. Over thousands of years, their dung accumulated in thick, stratified layers. When hunters' tools were lost or broken on the ice, they became trapped in this matrix. The dung wicked away moisture and locked the objects in a stable, frozen embrace, a perfect partnership between animal and human traces, preserved side by side for millennia. For the First Nations of the Yukon, the discoveries were more than just scientific data. Oral histories had long spoken of caribou herds filling landscapes where none live today. The artifacts were physical proof, direct links to ancestors. From the very beginning, First Nation researchers were integral to the work, grounding the discoveries not just in science, but in living cultural memory.
As the work continued, a remarkable story began to emerge from the ice. For over 6,500 years, the dominant hunting technology was the atlatl, a throwing stick used to launch long, flexible darts with incredible force. The ice patches yielded entire weapon systems, spruce shafts, sinew lashings still clinging to the wood, and resin mastics smeared like ancient glue. Some were so fresh they looked as if they'd been lost only yesterday. But then, the record shows a dramatic shift. Around 1,200 years ago, the atlatl vanishes. It's replaced, almost overnight, by the bow and arrow. In one layer of ice, there are long, heavy darts. In a layer just a few centuries younger, smaller arrow shafts, tipped with barbed antler or even hammered copper blades. The ice hadn't just frozen tools, it had frozen a turning point in human history, a technological revolution preserved in exquisite detail. But even as this narrative became clearer, one artifact threatened to complicate everything. It surfaced near a site called Carcross, a fully intact atlatl dart, radiocarbon dated to 4,300 years old. The preservation was astonishing. The wood shaft was straight, the sinew binding was tight, and the delicate feather fletching remained. But it was a strange, sticky orange coating that caught the expert's attention. Initial analysis suggested it was a typical pine resin used as an adhesive. But when the Canadian Conservation Institute conducted a more detailed chemical breakdown, the results were unprecedented. The substance was identified as castoreum, a pungent, waxy secretion produced by beavers. It was the first time castoreum had ever been confirmed on an ancient weapon, and it opened a floodgate of questions. Why would a hunter deliberately apply a substance known for its powerful, musky odor? The theories were compelling but contradictory. Was it practical? Perhaps the castoreum was mixed with resin to create a superior waterproof adhesive. Or maybe it served as a scent mask, its strong odor confusing the keen senses of caribou. Then there was the ritual possibility, that the substance was not functional at all, but a symbolic charm, a form of hunting magic intended to bring success. The physical evidence was ambiguous, and for years the castoreum dart remained one of the Yukon project's most profound enigmas. The mystery might have remained there, locked in academic debate. But the researchers turned to a new kind of expert, one without bias or preconception. They turned to artificial intelligence. The chemical profile of the castoreum residue was fed into a machine learning system alongside data from hundreds of other artifacts, adhesives, and natural substances. The AI was tasked with one job: find the pattern. What it found was stunning. The algorithm confirmed that the mixture was deliberately made, but it did not classify it as a simple adhesive. The AI flagged its chemical signature as a recurring anomaly, a compound that seemed intentionally altered for a purpose other than just binding. The pattern aligned less with glues and more with complex, multi-ingredient mixtures used in ethnographic records for ceremonial or medicinal purposes.
The implication was immediate and profound. The AI's analysis strongly suggested that the castoreum was not just a practical ingredient, it was deliberate and it was meaningful. This is what some researchers found so unsettling, not because it was sinister, but because it destabilized the conventional image of ancient hunters as purely pragmatic figures. If the AI's analysis is correct, the dart is evidence of a worldview where the line between technology and belief was blurred, where weapon was not just a tool, but an object infused with spiritual power. For Yukon First Nations, this wasn't unsettling at all. It was validation. Their oral traditions have always maintained that hunting is a sacred act, steeped in respect and ritual. The AI hadn't discovered a new truth, it had simply provided a new language for a truth that was already known. The story of the Yukon ice patches is a stark reminder that even the most advanced science is in a race against time. This entire, irreplaceable archive of human history is actively disappearing. Every summer, the melt season exposes a few more objects from our collective past, but once thawed, their preservation clock starts ticking again. Wood warps, sinew crumbles, and feathers turn to dust. Archaeologists and First Nation researchers fly into these mountains each year, recovering what they can before the sun, wind, and rain reclaim it forever. The revelations from the ice are a gift, offering an unprecedented window into the ingenuity, resilience, and spiritual lives of ancient peoples. But they are also a warning. These frozen time capsules are vulnerable, a library of ice with its pages dissolving in the warming air. We are left with both the thrill of discovery and the sobering question: how many more secrets will melt away into silence before we can hear their story?